Welcome. We have a special treat for you all. And we have Dr. Pamela Buchanan. She is a board certified family and emergency medicine physician, TEDx speaker, and mental health advocate with over 2 decades of clinical experience. And she now helps others overcome burnout through her strong medicine coaching brand and her book, White Coat, Black Face, A Doctor's Guide to Overcome Your Emotional Flatline. And we have a bonus with you all because we started just prepping for our podcast, and Erin, my super co-host, hit record, and thank goodness, because we're going to show you in this episode our behind the scenes conversations that are sometimes so valuable. We should have been recording them all. So that's what you're going to get if you wonder how we get prepared for this podcast and the conversations that we have for our guests. So might be a little bit of a different intro than our usual, but enjoy this episode.
Practice what you preach. What you tell your patients to do for yourself.
So glad to have you here, Dr. Pamela Buchanan, and let's get started.
Are you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Erin as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
Well, I think especially if your audience is physicians, they need to hear that your kids will be okay. And then I recently read about lighthouse parenting, and I was like, you never heard about it? Well, so you heard about the helicopter mom. There's also a lighthouse mom, which is the kind of mom I am. And I laugh. It made me mean to say I laugh at the helicopter moms because they're trying to control every single variable of every aspect of this kid's life. How long is it going to take you to realize that's impossible? Whereas the lighthouse parent is like something that's planted like a lighthouse, and I'll give you a guide on where to go. I'll guide you into the harbor. And so I give my kids tools. I tell them what's right, what's wrong. I tell them what the clear expectations are. We have our faith and stay in those lines. And so they know, and I just let them go like free-range chickens. You know what to do. You respect me, I respect you. You have your rights until you do something to take them away. And they pretty much have stayed within the lighthouse parenting framework. And, they know, and they fear more so getting those privileges taken away, that they don't cross lines, generally speaking. Joanne, where are you in the world today?
Oh, yes. I'm in Austin. I'm in my house.
Okay.
I was thinking about it like that day. We still laugh about it. We were all a little bit off. We love technology. We love being able to move and do things from different spaces. And then have that I was at a hotel in Houston that day, and
I forgot about that.
You had you were in the car, and then the charger, and then no charger,
no Wi-Fi.
It took forever to upload, and we did it. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good learning.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah. And so I was willing this time, Pamela. I was like willing. Okay, no thunderstorms over the Midwest. No thunderstorms over the Midwest. And then wasn't willing.
Day. It's a beautiful day. So
I forgot to wish no ER visits, but I think it was interesting that I ended up in the ER 2 nights ago, and I had a great experience. And I thought back, I think I've been in the ER 5 times with different people, once myself and with different people over the last maybe 15 months. And every experience has been amazing. And it just makes me think of you and go, wow, you'd think everybody complains about how awful it's been with their PCPs and all different people. And like I had in the ER where it could be chaotic and terrible. And it was just an amazing experience every time. So that's my hats off to you, my friend.
And I'm glad, generally my patients have a good experience, when they're not doing things like drug seeking and whatnot. But generally, we try to make your bad day as good as possible.
Yeah, I had my coaching hat on. I when my husband woke me up in the middle of the night and was like in pain, I'm like, okay, we got to go to the ER. It's clear. So I'm like, okay, it's usually a 4-hour turnaround time. I've been in this ER a bazillion times. So I was looking, okay, what do I need? I need my calendar. I need my phone. I need my charger. Usually I bring one book.
Mhm.
The Wi-Fi is terrible. I brought 2 books. So I brought Oprah Winfrey's What Happened to You. And then I brought a second book, a coaching book. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's in my room. Anyway, it's a coaching book. And the nurse has a son who's a firefighter at the busiest ER, I think, in the nation, somewhere in Florida. The ER nurse is dating a nurse. I don't know if his wife, like people in his family are all nurses. He's an ER nurse. And he was talking about frustrating patients and how one patient that his son went on a call on, the mom, they had to give Narcan. She was totally, passed out. Her kids are there. It's Mother's Day. And he was just like, shaking the finger. How dare you? You have kids. Not everybody has the privilege of having kids. And here you are, doped up with your kids present. And I don't know, could have died perhaps. And I said, my husband and the nurse are back and forth from the firefighter perspective. And I said, it's trauma. And he's like, what are you talking about? So I talked about the ACEs study. And I just happened to have Oprah's book, What Happened to You? So we had to talk about trauma while my husband's getting evaluated in the ER. And I gave him the book and I put my card in there. And I said, email me and I'll send you a copy of ACEs. I said, 10 years in child abuse medicine. I can't look at anything without a trauma lens. And I'm so grateful because when you remove the irritation for those people who are, not housed, who are in jail and prison, who've done things that you would never fathom doing, and you don't know what happened to them, and now you have a different lens, it frees you from that judgment and comparison.
Exactly. I do the same thing. Even when I experience racism or sexism, like if someone's racist, that was probably passed down to them, and it's generational and just inbred, and they've had some traumatic experiences and someone's associated some negative connotations. I know that my parents, passed on beliefs about all white people and all encompassing bucket. By the time I was in 7th grade, I was in honors classes. And all my friends are white. And guess what I found out? There's some nice white people. And, just by us commingling with each other. And what I hate about what's happening now, it seems like people seem like they want to go into silos, and I don't like this group, and I don't like this group, and because of how we are in our political climate. I think that's so bad for us.
And I did talk to him about your book as well. And I didn't have an extra copy of it, but I told him about it. And so I have an opportunity, I think, to continue your message and, what I've learned from you. And it's powerful. So you never know where the opportunity is going to show up to help enlighten people or raise awareness that there's another way to think, including about people you don't understand at all and who are very different and make very different choices. And I just think about the weight you carry when you're so angry at these people. And yet, if you knew the backstory, you might feel passionate or compassionate for them.
And almost every single drug addict I've had an interaction with. And I can see sometimes staff getting irritated or a person with severe psychosis, so very irritated. I was like, if you could go inside of their brain and go through what they've been through, I think you would break. And so I feel very empathetic about people who most people are very annoyed with.
I find if I can get in their head and go, oh, I wouldn't make the same choice, or that's not what I would do, but I understand where you're coming from. And if I can get inside their head and go, oh, I totally get it, or I think I get part of it, it's just a very different way of going through the world.
I connect with.
I was like, we're having a good conversation. We probably should officially start.
I recorded
we
this.
have that. Yeah,
from conversations with you, Pam, nothing goes wasted. So
yes.
Yeah.
Now I was gonna say, in general, especially to do what I do as a psychiatrist, that right? Like we can't relate to everything that we hear, or we have our filters and our judgment, our perspective, how we grew up, our model of the world. And if I can work on connecting with the emotion that's behind whatever it is that they're doing, whatever it is that they are trying to communicate, then it's almost immediate empathy. And then I can connect with them. And then it's way easy to build rapport and then have real communication. And that's not just in practice. We can do that with any conversation. And then also even small things. I was taking my boyfriend to the airport yesterday, and there was a mess at the airport, and there was this guard like moving people around, and I must have not followed an instruction, and the like whoever was guarding the moving people around stood in front of my car, let everyone else pass, and waited until there was no one else, no other cars, and then let me go. And I was like, I did nothing. I was just changing lanes, and she thought I was just going to run over people. And my thought was, like I could have been, what's your word, Pamela? I was like pissified. What I was trying to remember what was the word that I liked that you
I
said.
didn't know if I mean, when you pissed off to the highest levels of passivity, sometimes
Specific.
I get there sometimes.
I love that. Anyway, so I could have been there. And then I was like, my thought was, it was so quickly, my thought was, I'm sorry that you're having a rough day. Like that person must be having a rough day. Like they're not loving their job. And I was just like, I'm
Exactly.
good. Like I just had like 2 wonderful weeks with my boyfriend, and sad that I was like dropping him off. But I'm like at peace, and I'm like, I can wait here while you're having your moment blocking me. But anyways, right? Like even in simple things like that, we can kind of connect with our higher being and our filters, and we can only imagine what they're going through that makes them act or say certain things that per our filter and per our model of the world we might not agree with. It's
Yeah,
like, I
I
don't know.
apply. Me. No, I get that because working in the ER, you can encounter any kind of person at any given time, and people are annoyed. And if you've ever hurt, that is a very annoying time, and you want someone to help right now. And so, when people are in that state, I get it. I have a lot of empathy for that. And even right, my son's on varsity soccer, and we were at a game on Wednesday, and the other team was just obnoxious, and the parents were obnoxious, and it almost got violent uh, at a kid's soccer game. And in my mind, I'm like, what's wrong with them? Who hurt them? Why is this so important? And I realized it was us versus them. Our private school is affluent. They think we're all rich and snobs. You know, most of us are working class or upper middle class. Not exactly, the 1%ers. Some are. It's true. And I get it. It was like this was a school that had lesser funds, and they took a great sense of pride into we can compete with you all. We can battle against you guys. We can beat you. You're the state champions. We can. It was a big deal. And so I understood where they were coming from. This was something for them that made them feel like they were able to compete with the people who were, I guess, where they aspire to be. And so I had to explain it to the other parents, and they were like, I was like, let's not get involved in that. Let them be upset. This is just a game. This is senior year. Some of our kids are going to be going to Ivy Leagues, and some are going to be starting, some of these kids are going to do big things, you can tell. So I just have empathy in almost every aspect of everything I do.
That's great.
And the role modeling, I just want to pause and share the role modeling you're doing for others in real time and explaining why you're behaving differently than them, why you're thinking differently than them. That ripple effect is so profound. And you're modeling not only for the other parents and the kids, and then they go home, and then next time they're feeling that way, they're maybe going to remember that. Oh yeah, what did Dr. Pam say? I remember
Exactly.
what happened to you, what happened to them, what's the reason behind this behavior. And you never know how that one, what might seem like simple and automatic action that you did, because it's become so ingrained in who you are, it may have profound effects on the rest of people's lives.
I tell you right now, something that is just weighing on me heavily, I have to work through. I've really had to talk extensively with my therapist about it because it's creating stress. Is the way that vaccines have become political. It is really stressing me out from an ER doctor perspective because just a little while ago, I'm trying to make this as HIPAA compliant as possible. There was a patient and there was a little baby, not vaccinated, but sick, not a little baby, like under a year. And the mom was so worried and so concerned. She'd been to the ER 3 times in that last 2-week period. It seemed like the baby had a cold, but who was to know? I didn't know. They didn't have any vaccines. And so then you have to think about looking for zebras and then worry about what if it is, something that is not necessarily deadly to a person who's vaccinated, but what if it was measles? And so we had to do the $1 million workup and so to be at a place where they have to see subspecialists. And the mom was like, why do we have to do all of these things? And I'm like, they're not vaccinated. And so my pie came out. So it could be anything. And that stressed me. I worry about that. And in that same week, I saw another gentleman who had meningitis because he'd never gotten the meningococcal vaccine. And this person had a close family member that died of COVID that I took care of because they weren't vaccinated. And I'm thinking it's starting to cause like panic attacks, and it woke me up in my sleep, dreaming of a world where hardly anyone is vaccinated against things simple like polio, Haemophilus influenza. Because I've only heard of those diseases and I've never treated them. I've never seen them. I thought that I'd die without ever seeing them.
I have seen them, both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen polio in Africa when I went to Malawi, and people horribly crippled. And we were working hard to get those. We went on a 2-hour motorcycle ride through the wilderness in a skirt on a motorcycle to go give vaccines to these people who were thankful and grateful for that, because they see people who were crippled, who are disfigured from polio, walking around on their knees because they have contractures of their joints. And that was considered, I was more standing out because I was white than these individuals who had very debilitating physical impairments because of polio. And I also had a child who died in the ER with H flu before the vaccine was widely, maybe it was before the vaccine came out and was widely used. I was in the ER. I was there. I saw the parents. I saw the family members. I worked with one of the family members. It was horrible. And if you've never seen someone die from a preventable illness, if you've never seen somebody crippled from polio, if you didn't see people on the iron lung, back in the day.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that these things are possible from these stupid little viruses, and illnesses can be deadly. And
I don't get where vaccines became a bad thing. Like one of the most incredible advances in medicine that literally changed the world. I have a coaching client right now who's a pediatrician, and she was telling me how the American Pediatric Association was sending them reviews on how to recognize diphtheria in a kid, right? In a baby, because like you said, if we know about it, but we're not used to really thinking about it or screening for it, because thank goodness we don't see that. And there's been already a few breakouts of diphtheria, and right, like we were seeing measles again, and it's so sad.
So you already have in the ER, we're already short. The nurses after the pandemic, we're already behind with the nursing shortage, even before this thing came. And then you have something like 40% of the workforce leaving after COVID because people are like, I'll find something else to do. And I have smart colleagues who do things like work for tech companies now, and they're great doctors. They love being a doctor, but they're like, the trade-off not worth it. Now, if we keep making it more difficult for doctors, then who's going to do this work? Now, I'm getting older. I'm in my 50s, and your average ER doctor burns out in 10 years. And so I'm well past the burnout point. It's been 20 for me. And I probably will go 5 more years, I think. That's what I told myself. But if we start to have more and more cold and flu seasons where it's so much preventable types of death, I'm going to go sooner because I'm living my life and planning money in such a way that, I don't have to do those things. I do it now because I like it, but it's not, I have to anymore. And and that's scary because I am going to be an old person. When I go to the ER, I want somebody great there.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I coach, because I thought I want to be able to see, especially a female physician in the future. And if they're all leaving because they're burnt out and they face different barriers than men physician, that's just what the research shows. And Pamela, I've learned from you, I knew the numbers for women and men physicians. You've helped raise my awareness. What's the difference for a Black female physician? What's the difference for a Black male physician? Those numbers are even more skewed, not in your favor. And it's important that we have people of color, that we have women physicians in medicine. And if things don't change, and all three of us work as coaches, all three of us build up physicians, not, to see, can we make it more sustainable? And it isn't always. And
I think it's a matter of economics. It's like hospitals are such late adopters. They get on my nerves with that. And so they don't act until their hair is on fire and the sky is falling. All right? And that's too late. I'm speaking at a conference this week. And, I'll be speaking I have multiple conferences this week. It's Suicide Prevention Month. And that's my jam. And so I have 2 next week and 2 the following week. And the last 2 weeks, 1 each. And then 1 in October. And then after that, I'm going to sleep for a week. But I really am going to do like nothing, like on a daily basis, hard. But those hospitals, I'm speaking to a lot of administrators. I'm like, you need to employ physician coaches in your hospitals. Because when I went through therapy, it helped me a little bit. And I also work with therapists because therapists need to understand how to work with doctors. The answer is not quit your job. You hear that a lot. You need to learn how doctor minds are and learn how to work with doctors. But how can you work with doctors if you don't truly understand them? They need to go an extra step. There should be training to therapists on working with healthcare professionals specifically, because what we go through is so different. The mindset is different. And it's like, you can be tired, but there's a code going on. You got to keep going. There's somebody's life in the balance. So it's a different type of thing. And also, for instance, my father died. I was in the ER when my father died. I was working. You can't just leave. If I'd worked at a factory or if I were at some other place, I'd leave and go. But you can't because there's patient there in your care and there's no one to take it over. And it's illegal. And these people, I had sick patients. I was taking care of sepsis and I had a patient on the vent. So you had to get somebody else in there to take care of this. I couldn't just leave.
Wow. It's so common. And yet it appears that nobody really cares. And when I was in the ER, I was sharing when my husband was in the ER 2 nights ago, and I was having a talk with the nurse about trauma. And he had been having a conversation with one of the other nurses. And he says, the day nurses, they go home at the end of their shift and they get to decompress and maybe talk and have dinner, watch a little TV and kind of work out some of the issues that happened during the ER shift. The night nurses, he said, you go home and you sleep. There's no time to process. There's no transition. And now you're just going to bed dealing with all this stuff. And you might have had a code and lost a patient. And then you're immediately going to another room. And I'm not an ER doctor. I've seen patients in the ER as an admitting general pediatrician. I've dealt with patient death. And in some cases, ER, surgery, maybe anesthesia, you're dealing with it on a much more common frequency. And yet nobody's saying, let's do this in a different way. And in my husband's work as a firefighter, they created a peer support because they realized that it's not okay to just have a really traumatic event to witness. And they meet on it, they send someone out, and it's almost as if they think we're built differently than other human beings, more robotic. And we don't have feelings and emotions, families, our own immune system that's going to be affected by the trauma. And thinking, why the heck aren't you reading the research? Why aren't you looking at the suicide numbers, the collateral damage that's being done in medicine? In my opinion, you can tell I get very emotional about it. It is not okay. It is not okay. And I'm so blessed. I've never had a suicidal thought in my life. And I know people who are. And that nurse, I said, well, do you know about the Oregon Wellness Program? It's a statewide program that started because of 3 physician suicides in Eugene, Oregon. And the medical society started a free confidential therapy. You get access within 3 days with very well-vetted therapists who are used to working with physicians. And then they added PAs and NPs and now nurses statewide. He had no idea that it existed. And he's at a major one, I think the busiest ER in our state. And this nurse is not a traveler. They work at our ER, and that hospital has not made sure that every employee there that qualifies for this free counseling knows about it. Infuriates me. So I said, I'll be dropping my brochures to make sure you know about this.
You just made me so mad. It's like I'm like fighting mad. Like I could punch the air. I am furious because, I mean, when you work in a hospital setting, you get bombarded with the most ridiculous, useless things that you must do. Do this training, annual training. Okay. And you didn't include in that annual training how to keep me well. It should be part of the annual training. I should know about everything that's available to me. And as a matter of fact, there should be somebody who is an overseer who watches and says, it seems like you're not okay. You need to go to this. You need to get it done within 30 days. Make sure I'm well.
And it's not like that there's no resources. Like I know when I was creating a coaching program for the institution that I used to work at, it felt to us that there was nothing or very minimal. And we did the research and there were actually a lot of resources. But what good are they? Just to check off a box, like, oh, we have resources. What good are they if we don't have the knowledge, the access, and the protected time to use them, right? Because we also need the ability to take time off that's not used against us, or, a break here and there. And like you said, Pam, someone checking in, which is what we wanted to do. We had all this program created, and part of it was doing kind of well-being rounds. Like we really wanted to go do rounds in the departments and ask people, and that no one approved that, but I know other systems have it. And it's we can go around and around talking about this because we understand it, because we've been on both sides of the side of the struggle and then the side of having tools and programs that could create big changes, and they're not always welcomed in the way that we believe they should, because they're not seeing the whole value. We understand it, but not everyone understands the long-term value of it.
So when it comes to hospital systems, they want to ensure the bottom line. They need to take care of their staff. And I have learned the direct correlation between your bottom line and taking care of the staff. Now, it costs roughly somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million to replace a doctor every time you lose one. And they say somewhere between 50 to 100. And some studies say 500,000 to replace a nurse. As an annual hospital spends about $8 or $9 million every year from turnover. Now, what if you took care of your people and you had less turnover? Now, we're talking bottom line, because at this point, there's not enough for you to play with. you really can't afford to lose staff anymore because we're in such a deficit. And so if you want your hospital to operate properly, you need to take care of what you have, like maintaining a marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things here, I don't know that there's any other physician coaches in my 2-county areas. I'm on my medical society board. I've been, advocating for more peer coaching in my area. I think bigger areas, Portland, Oregon, Medford, they've been able to actually have some forward momentum with some of the hospital systems, which is great. And yet my area, it's like this desert. And people, unless you've experienced coaching, especially peer-to-peer coaching by another physician, you don't really understand the difference. And Pamela, you seem to be quite the expert at expressing this is the difference between therapy and coaching. And I know coaching is very future-oriented. And yet I liken it to everybody's driving a horse and buggy in medicine in my area. And I want to convince them that driving the car will actually get you further faster. And yet they're convinced the horse and buggy is enough, even post-pandemic. And it's been an uphill battle. And yet I'm going to celebrate here too, because I made a connection. I'm making more progress, not with the big hospitals, but with small to medium-sized clinics. And so this week, in 2 days, actually, I am onboarding a wellness program for 2 clinics in my region. They didn't have a wellness program. They were struggling with turnover, like most offices, and they were open. They didn't have a budget. They created a budget. And I was able to tell them, this is what you're losing every time you have staff turnover, how expensive it is, and that it's an unbudgeted expense. And my services are way cheaper than that. And it can't guarantee you're going to keep people there, but it will diminish the burnout, help with efficiencies and those things. And they said, yes, they created a budget because they care so much. Their owner cared so much about their staff. He just didn't know what other things can I do. And he's tried many things. And my hope is this is going to be a great resource for them to not just check a box, but to do the custom program that's going to work for them. And so there is some hope there that we're making small grassroots progress, or I'm making small grassroots progress in my region and letting people know there's a different way to do medicine, hopefully that has less burnout, less turnover, because we can't, every time you turn over, you lose so much resources, even when you get a replacement. And we can't afford that right now.
Right. We can't afford that. And I've done the same approach. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's how I am in my community. Like the big hospitals, they're not listening. But guess who is? The rural ones, the smaller ones, because they hurt. They're like, I can't compete dollar-wise, dollar for dollar with the bigger systems. But what I can do is treat people like humans.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And I'm like, okay, so what we need to do is collect data. And so, Aaron, as you do your project, collect data. Use some tools, measure some things, because then the hospitals will respect that. Where do we start financially? Where do we end? Where do we start on the burnout scale? Where do we end? And are we making a difference? Because at the end of the day, we're scientists. And so we need to understand that. So we're scientists with a heart. And we need to, we measure this data so that we can get it into the hands of the people that are making big decisions for these big systems that affect large swaths of people.
Yeah.
That
I
the
actually
way we've
connected
been
with a medical student who's got a master's in statistics. And I just had a call with him yesterday. And we've been connected over the last year. And I said, I've got my anecdotal data from my one-on-ones and clients that are just having amazing results. I said, now I'm onboarding clinics and I would love for your help in making sure we have the data collection in a manner that does show, so now I've created pre and post intervention because that's what you want to see data. I'm going to show you the data. And then if the little guys are winning because they're able to maintain their staff, and what does it take to do that? Then eventually either the big guys are going to fall and figure out they got to do something different, or maybe they're going to listen up and start taking note.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I know we want to see change tomorrow, but when I think about all the movements that ever were, and this is why studying history is important. Think about women's suffrage. Think about voting rights. Think about the civil rights movement. Think about gay rights. It took time. And so essentially we're asking for physician rights. The right to be well while practicing. And it's going to take time. And so we need to not grow weary in well doing. We have to continue and just be encouraged to stay in community with each other. Aaron, that's great that you're doing that. I'm so excited about it. I love to hear that because it gives me faith. Because I'm about to go into a room with a lot of decision makers on Wednesday and Thursday and tell them this is what you need to be doing. And half of them are going to have arms crossed saying we don't have a budget for that. And my thought process, you cannot afford not to do this. Not when we lose one physician every day from suicide. Oh, medical school class from suicide. People, it takes you like forever to become a doctor to take your life in the thing that you aspire to be. That really gets to me. And that you won't acknowledge it. How come I didn't know about it until it was me?
I know.
That's
I know.
infuriating.
So
on that
necessary.
note, I want to talk about your book, Pamela, because I read your book, White Coat, Black Face, and it just like, following you on LinkedIn, you being in your world has changed me for the good. And I am so grateful for the impact. You work hard every day, not just to be such an amazing mom, an amazing physician, an amazing ER doc, an amazing change maker with your TEDx talk and your book. And I can't thank you enough for being willing to talk about so many things that people think of as taboo, whether it's neurodiversity, whether it's about racism, sexism, about things that you experience in the ER. And my goal is to get your book in front of more people. And I want to highlight that because it has so many lessons to give others. And how can we help share that message with others?
And I want to interrupt for a second because if you're seeing us in YouTube, I'm holding the book, and I want to say, so I ordered it right around the time that we had our other interview, which I love that you're coming back. I feel like a parent, like you're not supposed to have favorites, but you've been one of my favorite guests. So very excited that you're back, which is a secret. And I had it. So I ordered it and I had it in the kitchen counter. And my oldest son, who wants to go into medicine, and of course he listens to all these conversations, so it grabbed his attention. And then so I was telling him about you and the work that you've done, and he read a little bit about the book, and he was like so moved and asked so many good questions. And I said, this is the awareness that you have to have going into medicine for yourself, for your peers, for your patients. So anyways, it created already a little bit of a ripple effect inside my home with a young doctor to be. So I wanted to say thank you in that perspective before we moved on.
Thank you guys for both your kind words, because really my hope is let's get to the root and more prevention in terms of, I think we need to reach people at the medical school class level, at the residency level. I don't know that anybody truly prepared me for what I was going to be going through. And we could have done a better job of that. And it was not even that hard. It should be ingrained in your medical education. I feel like they get so caught up in trying to teach us all the facts and statistics and the histology and how cells work. And you remember medical school, there was a lot of redundancy. And so there was room to put some other things in there. And wellness should be at the heart of the education of the medical doctor. It really should be.
We have learned so much from you today, Dr. Pamela Buchanan. Just a few places that we talked about in our impromptu getting ready for the podcast, because we're so in alignment and have so much passion behind common themes. We just recorded our Get Ready, which talked about wellness in medicine, the ripple effect of our choice of going into medicine on our relationships, including with our own kids, and the power of wellness and prevention in medicine. And Dr. Pamela Buchanan, if people aren't already following you on LinkedIn and other places, can you please share with our listener, where can they find you and learn more about you, your book, and what you're doing?
Okay, Erin, thanks for asking. Of course, you can follow me on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Pamela Buchanan. And
you can also go to drbstrong.com. Text the word strong to 55444, and that is probably the best way to interact with me.
Excellent. And we will definitely have these links in the show notes. And with that, if you aren't already, go follow Dr. Pamela Buchanan on LinkedIn. She is a resource of inspiration and raising awareness. I've learned so much. I've learned so much from her book, White Coat, Black Face, which we're going to talk about in our next episode. And with that, stay tuned because another fun-filled episode and inspiration-filled episode with Dr. Pamela Buchanan is coming up next.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.